It happened during my freshman year of college when I was living in a dorm on campus. It was late at night, and I was trying to finish up a paper that was due the next day. My roommate had gone out for the night, so I was alone in our dorm room. I was so focused on my work that I didn't hear the door to our room creak open. Suddenly, I felt a chill run down my spine. I looked up from my computer and saw a figure standing in the doorway. It was a tall, dark figure that I couldn't quite make out in the dim light. "Who's there?" I called out, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure didn't answer, but instead started to move slowly into the room. I was frozen in fear, not knowing what to do. As the figure came closer, I could see that it was a person, but their face was hidden in shadow. I tried to get up from my chair and run, but my legs wouldn't move. It was like I was rooted to the spot. The figure came closer and closer, until it was standing right in front of me. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaking. The figure didn't say anything, but reached out and touched my arm. I felt a cold spread through me, like ice water running through my veins. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure was gone. I sat there for a few moments, trying to catch my breath and figure out what had just happened. I looked around the room, but there was no one there. I checked the door, but it was locked from the inside. I tried to shrug it off as my imagination was playing tricks on me, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the room. I decided to finish my paper in the common area of the dorm, where there were other people around. As I walked down the hallway, I saw that the doors to some of the other rooms were open. I glanced inside one of them and saw a figure standing in the corner. It was the same tall, dark figure that had appeared in my room. I quickly turned and walked away, my heart racing. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew I didn't want to be alone in that dorm anymore. Over the next few weeks, strange things continued to happen in the dorm. Doors would open and close on their own, and footsteps could be heard in the hallway late at night. Some students reported seeing the same figure that I had seen, lurking in the shadows. I tried to ignore it all, but it was getting harder and harder to do so. I started to feel like I was being watched all the time, like something was following me wherever I went. One night, I was walking back to my dorm after a late study session. The campus was deserted, and the only sound was the crunching of leaves under my feet. As I approached the dorm, I saw the figure standing in front of the entrance. I froze in fear, not knowing what to do. The figure started to move towards me, and I could feel the coldness spreading through me again. I turned and ran as fast as I could, not stopping until I was safely inside my room with the door locked. I never saw the figure again after that night, but the memory of it still gives me chills. To this day, I don't know what it was or why it was haunting our dorm, but I know that I never want to experience something like that again. I remember the day I moved into my college dorm like it was yesterday. My parents helped me lug my things up the stairs and into the tiny room that would be my home for the next 9 months. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I was excited to start this new chapter of my life, but little did I know, it was going to be one of the scariest experiences of my life. It started with small things, a door that was left open that I know I had closed, or a book that I had left on my desk that was now on my bed. At first, I thought it was just me being forgetful, but as time went on, I began to suspect that something else was going on. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. As I was walking back to my room, I heard something, a faint whisper that seemed to be coming from the end of the hallway. I froze in my tracks, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't make out what the whisper was saying, but it was enough to send chills down my spine. From that point on, things only got worse. I would wake up in the middle of the night to find my closet doors open, or my clothes strewn about the room. I would hear footsteps in the hallway when I knew that no one else was around. And then, there were the shadows. I would see them out of the corner of my eye, dark, amorphous shapes that seemed to move on their own. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but soon, they became too frequent to ignore. I tried to brush it off, telling myself that I was just being paranoid, but deep down, I knew that something was very wrong. One night, I woke up to find myself paralyzed. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I felt a weight on my chest, like someone or something was sitting on top of me. And then, I heard it, a low, guttural growl that seemed to be coming from right next to my ear. I wanted to run, to scream, to do anything to escape, but I was frozen in place. It wasn't until the morning light filtered through my window that I was finally able to move. I was shaken to my core, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what to do, who to talk to. How could I explain what was happening to me without sounding crazy? But I knew that I couldn't go on like this. I couldn't live in fear every day, wondering what was going to happen next. So, I decided to take action. I did some research and found out that my dorm building was built on top of an old cemetery. Supposedly, the spirits of the dead were not at rest, and they were haunting the building. I wasn't sure if I believed it, but I knew that I had to do something. I went to a local psychic and asked her for help. She gave me some herbs to burn and some crystals to place around my room. She also told me to speak to the spirits, to tell them that they were not welcome here and that they needed to leave. I did everything she told me to do. I burned the herbs and placed the crystals around my room. And then, I sat in the middle of my bed and spoke to the spirits. I told them that they were scaring me, that I didn't want them here anymore. I don't know if they heard me or not, but after that night, things started to calm down. The shadows disappeared, the footsteps in the hallway stopped, and the whispers faded away. I was finally able to sleep through the night without any disturbances. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I never found out what was really going on in that dorm building. Maybe it was just my imagination, or maybe there really were spirits haunting the place. All I know is that I was scared, and I'm grateful that it's all over now. I learned a valuable lesson from that experience, that sometimes, you have to confront your fears head on. You can't just ignore them or hope that they'll go away on their own. You have to take action, even if it means facing something that scares you to your very core. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, don't be afraid to ask for help. Seek out the advice of others, whether it's a psychic, a friend, or a professional. And remember, you're not alone. There's always someone out there who can help you through even the scariest of situations. I had always thought that living in a college dorm would be exciting. Meeting new people, going to parties, studying together, and experiencing the thrill of independence for the first time. But after what happened to me, I don't think I'll ever see dorm life the same way again. It all started on a Friday night. My roommate was out at a party, and I had decided to stay in and catch up on some work. I was sitting at my desk, typing away on my laptop, when I heard a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I was a bit hesitant to answer. But the knocking persisted, and I figured it must be someone from my floor. I got up from my desk and walked over to the door. As soon as I opened it, I regretted my decision. Standing in front of me was a tall, lanky man with a twisted grin on his face. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, and his eyes were darting around the room like he was looking for something. "Hey there," he said, his voice unnervingly calm. "Can I come in?" I hesitated for a moment, but then I remembered that I was living in a dorm full of students. Surely, this guy was just another student who had had too much to drink. I stepped aside and let him in. As soon as he crossed the threshold, I knew I had made a mistake. The air in the room grew thick with tension, and the man's eyes seemed to be fixated on me. I tried to make small talk, but he wasn't interested. Instead, he just kept pacing around the room, muttering to himself. I started to feel uneasy, and I was about to tell him to leave when I noticed something strange. The man wasn't carrying anything with him. No backpack, no books, no phone. It was like he had just appeared out of thin air. Just as I was about to say something, the man stopped pacing and turned to face me. His eyes had turned a deep shade of red, and his grin had grown wider. "You shouldn't have let me in," he said, his voice now low and menacing. Before I could react, he lunged at me. I stumbled backward and fell onto my bed, and the man climbed on top of me. His hands were around my neck, and he was squeezing so hard that I could barely breathe. I tried to fight back, but he was too strong. As my vision started to fade, I saw him reach into his pocket and pull out a knife. That's when I knew that I was going to die, but then, something strange happened. The man's grip loosened, and he collapsed onto the bed next to me. I looked up and saw my roommate standing in the doorway, holding a baseball bat. "Get out of here," he yelled at the man, who stumbled to his feet and ran out of the room. My roommate helped me up and called the police. They arrived a few minutes later, but the man was long gone. They took a report and promised to keep an eye out for him, but I never heard anything more about it. To this day, I still don't know who that man was or what he wanted. But I do know that I'll never forget the feeling of his hands around my neck, and the terror that I felt in that moment. Living in a college dorm may seem exciting, but it can also be dangerous. Always be on the lookout for strangers, and never let your guard down. You never know who might be lurking in the shadows.